Hey guys, what's up? It's Will here, and I'm here for some quick picks for UFC Mexico, which goes down this Saturday with the main event being Brendan Royval against Brendan Moreno 2. Obviously, you've got your host of Mexican fighters on this card, which you would expect going back to Mexico. I'm just going to give you some quick picks. None of this thorough stuff. I've not had as much time to kind of look through as much as I would like to, so I'm just going to give you some quick picks for that. So, Muhammad Naimov against Eric Silva is the first fight we've got in the featherweight division. Muhammad Naimov he's went out to like a minus 500 favourite, and he's been underdog in his last two fights with wins over Jamie Malarkey and Nathaniel Wood. That Nathaniel Wood one, I thought he was very dirty in that one. He was like targeting it seemed like he was targeting the sack area of Nathaniel Wood, going for it. Like I say, there's going to be a fade spot with this guy. I tried to fade him with Nathaniel Wood at chalk in a parlay, and it never really worked out. I thought if that was another place around the world, he might have actually got the win there. But I'm going to go Muhammad Naimov. I should mention, obviously at Mexico, altitude, elevation. If fighters are getting out there late, I think that's not going to benefit them whatsoever. Naimov does fight out of Denver, so he will be acclimatized to it a little bit, but still not as high as what it is in Mexico City. Eric Silva, I don't really rate this guy all too much. I think that he's pretty low level, pretty old. So for me, I've got Naimov there to win that one to start off the night. But he is a big chalky favourite, and I think this card could throw up some kind of fights there you have to be really careful with. Victor Altamirano against Felipe Dos Santos. I really like what I've seen from Felipe Dos Santos and his fight against Manuel, but I'm seeing a lot of people like give him a lot of credence in that fight. I still think he got his ass kicked in that fight. He does look like a good prospect, pretty solid, but I thought he got absolutely whooped by Manuel. But it's just the fact that he showed his durability, his toughness, kept coming, landed some shots on Manuel, and I think a lot of people are really riding into that a little bit. Altamirano, although not super dangerous, I think is a solid pro. I think it's another kind of good step-up fight. It's obviously a step down, but a good, solid professional Altamirano. But like I say, not super dangerous. A couple of wins in the UFC. Benicio Salvador, Daniel Lacerda with the two losses coming to Carlos Hernando split and a 10-8 decision, which is not great. So I am going to lean on the side here of Felipe Dos Santos. I think he's like minus 325, which is quite high. So you might have a live dog in someone like Altamirano. I just think, for me, Dos Santos just does a little bit more in that one. So going with Dos Santos there. Luis Rodriguez against Dennis Bondar. I think this fight could end up being close because I don't think this guy is uber. I'm seeing a lot of love for this guy actually this week, and I don't know whether it's the love for him or just the fade. Like people want to fade Dennis Bondar, and I get that because I don't think Bondar is of a super high level, and he's obviously coming off a couple of losses. That one there's not the greatest deal to have in your record, but that was an injury, and then the loss to Carlos Hernandez. Where here, this is a UFC debut coming in here, so, and especially in Mexico with those raucous fans there. I don't like kind of much of what I see from either guy, honestly. I think both guys are very, very low level flyweights. I'm going to go with Mexico in this one. But yeah, it's not one of the fights I'm looking forward to on the card. Claudio Puelles against Fares Ziam. Fares has really came along. I'm going to pick him here. He's really started to kind of round himself out, be a really good, solid fighter. Like I said, a couple of wins in a row. Although I don't think they're against the most dangerous guys. I think Jai Herbert's got some things you will like, but I think he's got a lot of problems with his chin. He can be hurt. His durability is not great. But like I say, 2 wins in a row, riding some momentum. He's been out in Mexico for a couple of weeks, so he will be fully acclimatized to what the air's like out there. Claudio Puelles, I do believe that he's been out there in Mexico, kind of at a higher altitude. I think it's Puebla where he's been, but he's so harmless to me. He's coming off that loss to Dan Hooker, which was over a year ago, which is crazy how quick that times went. And really, he was just getting oil checked by Dan Hooker every time he was attempting to go for a leg lock. Now, he is very crafty with that. And I think he's a dog this week that some people might kind of get behind because, like I say, he's close to a plus 200 line, plus 180 in that region. I just think he's very harmless. And I think if he doesn't get his initial shot in that leg, then I think he is in a little bit of trouble there. So I'm going Faris Siam to get the win there. I don't know how many times this fight has been attempted to kind of go down. Edgar Shiraz against Daniel Lacerda. Lacerda is such a fun fighter to watch, but goes for it, and if he doesn't get it, you can get him out of there. As you can see, lost to Jeff Molina, lost to Francisco Federero, two pretty lowish light flyweights, level flyweights. Altamirano, I think, is solid. Cedro Vergara, he had him really hurt all over that there and ended up still losing by ground and pound in the middle of that fight. And then there was a stoppage there the last time these two fought. The times I have picked them, I think it's the third or fourth time these two have tried to be put together. I think I've been on the Chires side a little bit more. I think though at one point I did pick Lacerda in one of the fights that got cancelled. I'm going to go Shiraz. I think that he's a little bit more kind of hard-nosed. He will stay in the fight. If he doesn't get taken out early on, I think he will start to cook this guy, even though I don't think Shiraz is a sort of a high level. So Shiraz for the win there. Jesus Aguilar against Matias Mendonche. Before this guy went to the UFC, I thought this guy was going to end up being really good. And now he's coming here, a couple of losses. Javid Bashra, that's not the worst loss in the world for the simple reason Javid's a very solid fighter. This one's a little bit concerning to me. The name of this one, I thought he would have showed a little bit more. I know it was just dropped down to flyweight, I believe. And there is things to like about him, but I think this guy, I think he could possibly take out Jesus very early. I think if this fight goes in past 2, 3, 4 minutes, I think Jesus Aguilar becomes very, very live. Although not being a super high-level fighter, in my opinion, Aguilar, and he's got a knockout win over Shannon Ross like everybody else does in the world. This loss at Tyra, I just think this guy's got a little bit more about him. I think he's a very live, viable dog. Now, as fighters, I think Matias is a really good... I think he could mold himself into a good fighter. I just don't like that gas tank, and I've seen a few things that I don't like. But he is the more dangerous fighter, I think, with the more finishing capability. I'm going to ride with underdog here in Jesus Aguilar. I think that he's going to start to come into this fight, into that second round, and maybe win rounds 2 and 3, potentially get a late stoppage in round 3. So for me, I'm going to take Jesus Aguilar to win there. This is another fight I am not 100% sure on. Christian Quinones against Hyon Barcelos. Now, this is a guy I think that... I think this kind of level of opposition, what Barcelos is a little bit too high for what Quinones is facing right now. Because he came in here all guns blazing, obviously. Got that win over Klitaha. I think I was in France, actually, in Paris. I watched that live. That was a great finish. Then got Kyung Ho Kang, which he got caught there. And like I say, Barcelos, he is not in the best of spots right now. 4 losses in 4 of his last 5, like you can see down here. All two pretty decent guys. Kyler Phillips, dangerous. Umar, I don't have to get into him. Victor Henry, a consummate professional, been around for years. And then Valiev is a tough guy as well with the win in there against Trevin Jones. There's a lot to like with Barcelos. I just don't think his fight IQ is great. He does have some power. Obviously, it's great jiu-jitsu. I think if he grappled more, it would really help him. So yeah, there is things to like in both guys here. And I was thinking about going with Quinones, but I've just got this feeling that Barcelos is going to catch him at some point in a submission. So I'm going to go on the kind of old man here on Hyon Barcelos to come in and get the win. But I am not confident in that quick pick whatsoever. I think Quinones could be a little bit live if the IQ of Barcelos doesn't stand up there. Manuel Torres against Chris Duncan. I mean, this is kind of meat and potatoes kind of fight here. If Torres, what we've seen from this guy, you've got to love what you've seen in the Contender Series. A knockout there, a knockout there. This elbow and mortar was nasty, but I'm still to see more from this guy. And I think it was this fight here, the Camacho fight. He was blowing hard after 2-3 minutes of that fight. Now, I know it's an elevation. I know he's from Mexico, so he's probably a little bit more used to it when, like a Chris Duncan, who's from Iowa. over here in Scotland. But from what I've been looking at from the interviews and such, Chris has did as much as he could. Hyperbaric chamber, never got out to Mexico super early, but he's been doing things beforehand to really put himself in a position there. And Chris Duncan's really surprised me because I thought he was a bit of a brawler when he came into the UFC. It's the way he's always been, but he's managed to change his kind of game plan around since this fight here. I've tried to fade him a couple of times. I've tried to fade him that one there. Never went down too well. But I like the fact that he's changed up his style because if he stands there and trades with Torres, he's in deep trouble. I'm going to go with Chris Duncan here. Everyone, and I mean everyone, is messaging me about this guy, saying he is the easy money this week. And I'm not going to say it could be because, I mean, he could come out here and absolutely hurt Chris Duncan if Chris Duncan doesn't fight the way he should. I think Chris has to really just kind of keep himself in the fight, take his opportunities to get takedowns, and I think that Torres is going to kind of gas out. So I'm actually going to bet this guy, Chris Duncan. I think he's a good dog. He's plus 150. Everyone is piling in on Manuel Torres, and I can kind of see why, because he could take Duncan out early. Absolutely could see that. But for me, I'm going to roll with Scotland here. I'm going to pick Chris Duncan to win this fight. Yazman Harrigue against Sam Hughes. I'm going on the Yazman side here. I think that Sam, although this line is kind of stupid a little bit, she's plus 400. That line is a little bit too high in my opinion. And Yazman is still, when it comes to the UFC terms, I know she's had a couple of fights now, and she's coming off that loss to Denise Gomes. There is a lot to like. There's a lot that I've liked with her strike and with her footwork. Just her overall game, I think, is pretty solid. Where Sam is kind of your meat and potatoes, not really strong in anything. She's not like super powerful. She's not a great grappler, but she's a hard-nosed girl, will keep herself in fights. And like I say, she's won her fair share. That one there, she came Amarim in the first round with the submission attempts that she had, and then just outworked her. And wins there, kind of low-level wins over Estela Nunes and Elise Reed, and losses to Pinheiro and Pereira Rodriguez. I'm on the Harrigue side here. I think she rolls pretty convincingly there, in my opinion. Raul Rosas Jr. against Ricky Turcios. The only thing I kind of worry about a little bit is just Raul Rosas Jr. just maybe going a little bit too hard, and still the fact that he's still, 19? But when I watch Turcios, he's just not dangerous, in my opinion. He's got out to Mexico super early. I think this guy's been there since mid-January. I've seen him in a couple of pictures with Yaya Rodriguez in mid-January. So he's been out there probably getting good looks with some of the guys that he's been training with. But like I said, I still think there's a lot to come from Raul Rosas Jr., but there is things to like. I mean, that first round against Christian Rodriguez, I thought he looked good in that one there before kind of losing the next two rounds, and then coming back there against Terence Mitchell. His wins are against the lowest level guys you could ever ask for. This is, I think, a good step up to what he's kind of faced with your Mitchells and your Perrin. I think that Rosas is just going to outwork him a little bit and win a decision this one. So I've got Raul Rosas Jr. to win that one. Daniel Zellhuber against Francisco Prado. This was one a couple of weeks back or a week back that I was pretty convinced that Zellhuber was the side. And upon watching Prado, there's quite a lot to like with this kid. I do like what I see with his ground and pound. I think he's a hard-nosed guy. I think if he had, a couple more fights, if he kind of came in through the Contender Series and whatnot, then I think I would have liked that one. But he's got 13 fights there, coming off of that win over Otman Azaitar, with the loss against Jimmy Malarkey, which is a tough entry into the UFC. Zellhuber completely dropped the ball against Trey Ogden, and then came back 2 wins over Lando Venata and Christos Hyagos. Like I say, I think there's a viable dog in Prado this week. But for me, I'm going to stick with the guy I think's got a little bit more potential right now, and I think that's Daniel Zellhuber. Moving on to the co-main event, 5 rounds in the UFC featherweight division, a rematch which took place a couple of years ago. I believe it was a couple of years ago. Yeah, nearly 2 years ago. Yaya Rodriguez against Brian T-City Ortega. It's kind of been funny. I've heard nothing about T-City since he last fought in that Yaya fight. And I didn't realise he lost 3 of his last 4, but obviously he fought Volk and he fought Max Holloway and he fought Yaya, all guys that have held belts in that division in one way or another. And I kind of been thinking I want to lay the hammer down on Yaya Rodriguez this week. And I'm still thinking I want to do that. But this guy is forever going to be dangerous. He's got decent striking. Obviously, I don't have to talk about his ground game. You've got the unpredictable striking of Yaya. And he's also got some submissions that he showed in the Josh Emmett fight, even though I very much doubt he's going to show that here against someone like Brian Ortega. So I'm really interested. This over 5 rounds kind of took me by surprise a little bit when I looked into it. I was like, oh, this is 5 rounds. I didn't realize that until like yesterday. So the gut feeling was Yaya Rodriguez, and I think I'm going to stick with that one there. But T-City sometimes has surprised me the way he's kind of come out and fought in the past. But I mean, it's his best days maybe behind him. It's like 3 years since his last win. That's kind of crazy. I would love to see, this guy's been talking to him and Topuria. That would be a great style matchup, I think, with the boxing of Topuria to just the overall kind of unpredictability of Yaya Rodriguez. So I would like to see that. So hopefully he comes out here, gets the win, and puts himself in line for that. And the main event of the night. This is one I'm seeing a lot of love for this guy here, and I can see why. This is a rematch which took place. When did this take place? This must have happened 3 years ago, before all the Figueiredo stuff. Yeah, at least that. So, because I think this line high. I think this line is very high. I think that this guy is a very, very, very live dog here. It's just trying to find the confidence to pick him. Obviously, being in Mexico, like I say, he's looking to rebound. Both guys come off losses to Pantoja, yeah. So that's kind of interesting. This guy just goes for it. And like I say, he does fight at elevation out of Denver, not as high as Mexico City. So he can go, and he will look to go the whole entire fight. But he does make mistakes. He does put himself in positions where he can get caught and stuff, and that is shown in losses, submission to Pantoja, and in numerous spots in that when Pantoja was take the back would kind of ride him out a little bit. But my gut feeling is telling me that Royval's going to win this fight. And I don't know what it is, because like I say, this guy is a championship level fighter. Obviously some great wins there. I think he is very hittable. I think he can put himself in some bad positions, but I'm going to go with my gut feeling here. I'm going to go with Brandon Royval as a big dog here. I just think that he's going to catch Moreno in something and really take him out. So not super confident in the pick, obviously, when you're picking that big of a dog. I just think all the pressure is on him here. You've got someone in Royval who's coming in here short notice, coming off a title fight. This is a big fight for him to really jump back into that title picture. So I'm going to pick Brandon Royval. I've got a funny feeling he's going to do that here. So Brandon Royval will be the pick. Save that. So guys, that is my picks here. 18 minutes in. That's enough for me. Until next week, guys, all the very, very best. Take care, and I will see you soon.